Okay, this request is recommended for approval. Number 2, 4476 Ship Road Yard. Is the applicant present? Okay with recommendations? Is there any opposition to this? This subdivision request is recommended for tentative approval. Number 3, 800 Baltimore Street. Is the applicant present?
Brett O'Rell with Poly Surveying. After the staff report came out, we had some communication with myself and the architect on this. There's been some concern by the daughter of her parents are actually, this home here was recently burned down, and now they're looking to do new construction. As that, we had to compile these lots to a one-lot subdivision, and there's some concern on the front setback on what we're going to truly have to adhere to. Originally, we had presented it as a 25-foot front setback to Baltimore Street. You can see from the GIS that there are several homes right next to it that are very close to the right-of-way. Our client just wants an opportunity to build the home back in that location. If the setback is not an issue, we can move forward, but the architect has informed me to at least request, and we had submitted revisions on Monday for a 20-foot front setback. I believe staff may have passed you this out. It was a minor change. So it's item number 1 on the list here is what I was looking to amend to simply change that to a 20-foot setback versus a 25.
Mr. Orr, when did the house burn?
February of this year.
Okay, so it would still have non-conforming status and would not be a violation of the zoning ordinance.
That's what I believed was the case, and myself and the architect didn't really see. I guess we didn't agree on that. So just as long as we can build the home back in the location as is, we're okay then with the recommendations of the staff.
Anything else? Yep. Is there anybody else want to speak for this? Is there any opposition?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the form. She just requested this. She's trying to get a permit on this. I know this isn't permitting or anything. However, we're trying to get a temporary permit to go to construction based on this approval. It's going to take a week or two to get the subdivision recorded. I don't know if staff can coordinate with permitting. I know it's not probably the form to request that, but she's asked me to request that here.
We can work with them on that.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. All right, any opposition? Let's move on to number 4, which is 3614 O'Shell Road. I'm sorry, Mr. Byrd.
Jerry Byrd, Byrd Surveying Company. At the time I prepared the application and submitted it, was unaware, this is to combine 2 lots or 2 pieces of a lot. I was unaware that the city had vacated back, and the owner did own a 20-foot strip now that's out in the front. It was 1 lot, added 20 feet. I found out about that on Friday. We submitted new drawings on Monday. I think they may have had the chance to review those, and rather than hold over, we're asking that it be considered today for approval.
Mr. Olson, do you have any comment on that?
Mr. Byrd did submit the revised drawing. Bert is checking to see if the planner that prepared the report has had an opportunity to prepare some conditions. We aren't sure yet, so once we find that out, we can let you know whether or not we have conditions. If not, we would need to hold it over for a meeting.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Number 5, 1500 Satchel Page Drive. The applicant present? Okay with all the recommendations? Is there any opposition to number 5, 1500 Satchel Paige Drive? Okay. Number 6, the north terminus of Georgian Drive. It's a subdivision application for Georgian Place subdivision. Is the applicant present? Mr. Orwell, are you okay with the proposed recommendations? Is there any opposition to this?
I'm Harris Oppenheimer. I'm with Armbrecht Jackson LLP. I was retained just this morning by owners with property located on Georgian Drive, part of the University Professional Park subdivision and on the other side of the road. And their real concern was the substantial increase in the lot size at the end of Georgian Drive, creating traffic issues depending on what is ultimately put there, as opposed to professional offices that already exist along the professional park. And I was going to I would like to request a holdover so that I can get my ducks in a row and hopefully meet with the applicant to determine whether or not we even have an objection. So simply requesting a holdover so we can determine whether or not we do oppose the application. And that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else want to speak in opposition to that? Mr. Byrd, would you like to respond to the request for a holdover? It wasn't you, I'm sorry. Mr. Orwell, would you like to, see, I told y'all it was going to be tough. Mr. Orwell, would you like to respond to the request for a holdover?
Yes, so this application is simply a one-lot subdivision. We're looking to clean up an existing configuration. The client has purchased the rear portion that actually goes across the existing drainage ditch and canal. We're just cleaning this up so that that property now is no longer landlocked. There was a piece to the northwest that was landlocked as well. So at this time, there's no development that has been planned. We're just trying to compile this for permitting purposes down the road. Any changes to the site in terms of development of multiple buildings would be subject to PUD and back before you guys, along with any zoning change, which we don't foresee. It wouldn't make any sense in this case. So we're just asking to move it forward and approve today based on staff recommendation.
Question for staff. Richard, when do the notices go out on this subdivision?
The notices usually go out 2.5 to 3 weeks prior to it coming to the commission. The deadline is roughly a month, and they go out either the end of the week of deadline, which is a month prior, or the beginning of the following week.
Thank you, Mr. Orwell.
Who do they go to, Rick?
The notices go to all adjacent property owners and those directly across the street or streets. In this case, Bert's actually looking to see how many property owners. It looks like there probably were only 2 individual lot owners on Georgian Drive, but the Property Owners Association that owns the common area on the west side should have received notice, and then the property owners adjacent to the north would, the apartment complex owner would, and at least one of the B2 properties to the east would.
Thank you.
With the drainage ditch running through the middle of this property, adding that property on the other side of the drainage ditch, how does that affect the development of that overall piece of land?
That, I think engineering may need to address how they would be able to cross that, because that is Bolton branch drainage. It is a fairly significant drainage system. So,
yeah.
George, you want to talk to that?
Well, what sort of question do you have about, I mean, you can develop the property, there are means to do that. There are potential wetlands there, so they may have to have a wetland delineation and a core permit. Now, crossing the creek, that would come under our department's purview. As you know, there is a property, I think, to the east that crosses that creek now with probably with a culvert or some sort of bridge structure. So that is an option to do.
Yeah, I guess my question is, we've got a lot of opposition via email, and obviously they hired an attorney today. So I'm curious what could happen on this land if we did allow subdivision. Obviously, a PUD we would have to review, but technically, if they built one building, say multifamily, it wouldn't be coming before the Planning Commission again, is that correct?
Might be R2, okay. Alan, to kind of answer your question as far as when they got notice, I got a call Tuesday from Dr. Gaines Thomas, one of the doctors on this street, asking for information. I explained to him what's going on, gave him the names of a couple of attorneys. I think that was Tuesday afternoon is the first I'd heard about it from any of the neighbors. In Taylor, for your question, they'd have to build a bridge. As I understand, one of the lots in the original subdivision, the narrow lot, the way I read the staff report, was reserved for access. It's like that long, narrow lot was reserved for access to what, I don't know. But it would take $100,000 at least to build a bridge across that, to go across.
Question for traffic. It says site may be subject to a traffic impact study based on the density and proposed use of the development. So speak to that for us if you would, explain when that would kick in.
Since it's only a subdivision right now, and we don't know if it's going to go B1 or if it's going to go multifamily or what it could do, there's no need to do that at this point. But if it were to come forward, we would look for something. We've had issues raised to us about the concerns of traffic on this corridor, and so that is one of the elements that we would have to consider when asking for a traffic study.
So if they were coming in and making dividing it even further into smaller lots, then that would, it would require the traffic impact study.
If it were being developed into smaller lots, it may not pick up on our radar. If it was developed into one larger lot with a much larger development, it's much more easy to catch all at one time. Smaller lots might be more difficult because the timing of them might not be all at the same time. And so one small building is not going to add too much to the traffic as much as one large development will.
I have a question.
Ms. French?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. This is a B1, and by right, they could put in multifamily. If it was one building, it would not require the PUD, correct? Do you know if the applicant is interested, and I'm not saying that's what the plan is by any means, but nobody knows. And so what would be the harm in holding this up so that people who are in the area could perhaps have an opportunity to meet? I know it's just a subdivision. It seems very benign on its surface, but because of the concerns that people have, and I know what could transpire that could, tip the scales, so to speak.
Let Mr. Williams
Okay,
respond to
that would be great. I mean, I think that's what they're asking for, is just an opportunity, and they couldn't be present, I don't imagine.
My name is Daryl Williams. I'm with Daryl J. Williams Associates, and I actually represent the client who owns the property. And at this point, there is a few ideas of what they're looking at as far as how they can develop the property. As you well know, from north to south, there is a huge drainage ditch that goes through the property, so it's rather limiting as to what can be done on the property. The consolidation as to it being in one piece of property is really to eliminate the landlocked qualities of the property. So to answer any questions as to what is going on, they have a few options. We're just looking at what is available to us financially and what is going to be the best way for us to proceed, keeping in mind that we do have business neighbors and we do have residential neighbors. So our impact is going to be as minimal as it can with respect to both the business and the residential neighbors. At this point, we're looking for approval so that we can proceed with our planning. We have a lot to do behind the scenes before we even come up with a plan as far as soil borings, engineering, surveying, that type of stuff, so we would like to proceed with that. while we can.
I've got a question. You said there was a few options you are looking at, but you didn't name them.
I can at this time because I don't want anything to be out there. I don't want, because once I say something, then that's what it's going to be. We really do not know actually what it's going to be at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Anybody else like to speak to this?
My name is Kenny Helton, 429 Byron Avenue. I live on the property, or own the property just west of this proposed site, which is at the drainage ditch. And my concerns are two. One, right, it's now a commercial site, or I guess title is
B1.
commercial.
Office.
And it is landlocked, as was recently said. And my concern is, just to the north is Penelope House. It's a shelter for abused women and children. And my concern is opening that up to such as that, because when I moved there 24 years ago, I was walking through my property and children started screaming, "There's a man, there's a man." So, they're startled and they're trying to get away. So my concern is, one, it's going to affect the quietness of the Jackson Heights subdivision and also impose on the site of Penelope House. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to this? Thank you very much. Number 7, the south terminus of Heritage Circle West, extending to the west terminus of Mason Drive, Sean Turner Estates subdivision. Mr. Byrd? The applicant, obviously.
Jerry Byrd, Byrd Surveying Company. No problem except number one. Want to speak to that. As you can see by the maps that you have, of course, it's 46-acre tract of land, bank-owned foreclosure. Applicant's trying to buy it in the division of it, the applicant is purchasing it, wants to build on Lot B, the 39-acre tract, and he plans to sell Lot A to his cousin to build up there. The condition is that to bring the temporary turnaround at the end of Heritage Circle, make it a permanent turnaround in lieu of a temporary turnaround. Now, that temporary turnaround is asphalt, was constructed at the time that Heritage Circle was there. To bring that up to county standards, curb and gutter, that would be quite a financial burden, and I know that's not good planning, but he certainly would be, the applicant certainly would be willing to create the right-of-way that would be necessary for a permanent turnaround. The asphalt that's there is more than sufficient for him to have a single driveway going to their proposed house. And apparently it's been sufficient to serve the subdivision since it was created about 7 years ago, I think it was. But that's a consideration. We'd like to ask to provide the right-of-way for a permanent turnaround, but not bring the turnaround itself up to the county standards and ask them to accept it. Not for just a single lot, single driveway. And we would also adjust the building setback line to go around wherever the permanent right-of-way is, go ahead and back off 25 feet from that to make the building setback conform to it.
Mr. Olson, do y'all have any comment on that?
The turnaround that is there now is substandard. If I recall correctly, not necessarily this particular subdivision, but years ago, the county, when temporary turnarounds were done because the roads were expected to be extended, the improvement was less than the normal standard of the rest of the road. Is that the case here?
No. The thickness of the asphalt is the same as the county road that leads to it,
Okay. And
and the base material under it. It wasn't just haphazardly done.
unusual for that time. What's the diameter of the temporary turnaround? Do you
Supposed
know?
to be 80 feet. I did not go measuring.
Okay. Up to the commission whether or not you choose to ask him to bring it into compliance. The turnaround is there via an easement as referenced in the staff report that would go away when the road is extended. The road is obviously not being extended, so the easement would either remain or would be dedicated via this application.
We could dedicate it. I'm not sure the county would accept it. They may put, there's a note, some wording that they put on it. We did it one time before. Later, when it was brought up to standards, it was adjusted. I can't think of the words.
Or modify the easement on the plat to comply with today's standard for a turnaround, not necessarily depending on what the commission does, whether construction is required or not.
Yeah.
But the easement would be adequate for
Right,
the
that's what I
improvement.
mean. Where the right-of-way comes down, put the 25-foot radiuses, the, what is it?
120-foot diameter.
112-foot diameter, I think it is. The standard right-of-way, set that on the plat. The actual asphalt would be inside of that.
And, I mean, that's something that is definitely a consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd.
Okay.
I
Anybody
have a
else?
question on that. And I guess I was wanting to maybe get some, to see if the fire has any input on turnarounds and the diameter of it as it relates to emergency response.
There is within the city limits of Mobile, but if this is outside the city limits, then it would go with the 2009 International Fire Code, which is what the state adopted, which pretty much has the same requirements, but there are requirements.
Any further questions? Is there any opposition?
No.
Thank you. All right, number 8, 124 and 128 South Street. And Ms. Chesterton's just recused on this one. Mr. Orwell?
Sorry about that. Yes, Brett Orrell with Poly Surveying. I'm here with Mr. Green, who is one of the applicants for the minor subdivision. This property is standard lot and block, 50-foot lots. Mr. Green's been living there for quite some time. He is the Lot 1 property. This Lot 2, he let me know, had been under foreclosure, had several problems here at this location. Someone has come in and purchased this property, is looking to redevelop it, market it, and ultimately sell this home. At that time, he reached out to the neighbor to purchase half of this lot, so an additional 25 feet. You can see from the map provided that in this area, in this block in particular, most of these homes sit within 3 to 5 feet of the property lines as exist today. Some, even on imaging, you can see the house behind us is probably within 2 to 3 feet of the right-of-way itself. So we are, staff had reached out to me through the report. I've been coordinating with them some. We had not initially located an auxiliary structure garage where the new division line has gone in. We since have done that, provided you a sketch of where that building is located, a little less than 3 feet from the property line. But it is consistent with the neighboring properties. It's in character with the neighborhood. Mr. Green's property, he's let me know both his garage and his home sit probably closer than 3 feet to the property line. So We feel like we're in character with it. We're actually minimizing the impact. We're reducing from 3 lots to 2. We feel that we would like to move forward with the subdivision as is. He has several people, as far as fence builders lined out, several things he's wanting to do this property to improve it and just have more additional yard for his kids and his family. And we're asking that we're seeking approval of the subdivision as submitted today.
It has been requested for a holdover, recommended for a holdover, correct?
Yes, I believe it was.
Is there any opposition to this? Any questions from the commission? Mr. Olson?
Ms. Lathan, we would like to address a few of the points with this application. There are a number of structures throughout Midtown that do not meet the current setbacks. What we have in this case is a little bit unique in that we're creating a new property line, which is then creating a violation of the zoning ordinance. For it to comply with the zoning ordinance, it would simply have to shift north based on the dimensions that Mr. Orwell has provided, 5.3 feet. That would give the 8-foot minimum setback required for the structure. You know, another consideration is creating a property line that close to a structure may bring into question the fire rating of that structure because it doesn't meet those requirements either. So there are multiple reasons for the staff's recommendation for holdover. We do have conditions prepared for approval, one of which is that the line be shifted to provide the required 8-foot setback. And we want to give those out and give one to Brett. They're rather lengthy, so I'll let y'all read them as opposed to trying to read them into the record. What, you don't want to hear my voice?
I'm going to take a minute to review these. Mr. Green is here, and he wanted to respond just to give you some insight as to why he wants this property.
I'm going to give you the condensed version, but the home next door to me was foreclosed on due to a reverse mortgage. The lady in the home's daughter moved in. She was arrested for prostitution and drug use. My house was put up for sale. At that point, could not sell my home due to what's next door. So her finally being evicted after 2 years of the home being foreclosed on was a blessing. It's allowed my family to stay in this home. This 25 feet has never been used for anything. It is simply vacant property. All I'm asking to do is extend my property line to give me a larger lot, privacy fence, and a larger backyard. The reason that I am hesitant on this being held over is the gentleman that has agreed to sell me the property doesn't have to. Quite honestly, he is selling me for tax card value. Nice guy. He's buying the house to make some money, okay? I'm buying the lot because I live there. I have a tree guy scheduled. I have a title company scheduled for the closing to handle the deeds. I have a fence company scheduled, and I have to do all of this when Murphy High School is not in school. I can't just schedule it any day of the week. So I have all this lined out over the next 2 months. If it's held over, all that's gone. They don't work on weekends. I have to do it over the Thanksgiving and over the Christmas holidays as to not block traffic. So this is the last hurdle that I have after dealing with this nightmare next door for years. And a holdover is going to push this hurdle back until spring break of next year when Murphy High School is out of school. So I really don't think 3 foot of my privacy fence being 3 foot closer to the garage is any reason to hold this over. My house is in violation of the current laws, standards, whatever. The majority of the homes on my street are. I'm not building another structure. This is not part of their home. It's an exterior garage. And so I have everything set in place as well as the existing contract with this gentleman for 25 feet. So the holdovers, once again, is going to do nothing but push this back. I understand if I was building another home or doing an addition to mine, it's different, but I'm not. So I really would hope that this committee could approve this today and not hold it over another month. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Does the Commissioner have any other questions? Any opposition?
I've got a question.
Yes.
So staff recommended to change the line, and then that would be the tentative approval to add 5 feet, and is that a problem? I mean, it wouldn't be held over at that point. It would just, staff recommended a tentative approval by moving the property line, where it would be approved today, but is that change in property line a big issue?
With 25 feet, I then have a lot and a half. Also, the gentleman that is buying, that has purchased the home next door, there is a language barrier. So basically, we needed almost an interpreter to sit down for the contract. We've walked out the 25 feet. He's agreed to the 25 feet. He's agreed to everything. I just feel like if I have to go back to the drawing board at this point, there's a good chance he might just say, you know what, forget it. I mean, there is a chance, because once again, he's doing this to be a nice guy. He's quite honestly not making any money on the property. He's doing it because I live there. Would he agree? I don't know. It's 50-50, but it's really not a chance that I want to take. So does it really matter that much to me if my yard is 5 feet less? Honestly, not really. But at this point, I would have to go back, sit down with him, reschedule everything that I have scheduled again and push it back and set up another contract with him. And I've been working with him on this since I think he took possession in June or July.
I have a question. I understand you know, kind of with the holdover that would kind of impede your schedule, as you're saying, and so would, I guess, you know, tweaking the contract regarding the property line. Given those two options, is there one you would prefer over the other? You know, either being open to relocation of the interior lot line or the holdover?
I'm not following what.
How does that change when he's purchasing?
With the holdover. Well, so if we go back and take the 5 feet off, you have to resurvey, do everything else, and it's gonna push my timeline. I mean, I'm supposed to be closing a week from today. So I would then have to have it resurveyed. Once again, I'm having to do it. Murphy High School's out of school. Tree guy scheduled to come a week from tomorrow because Murphy High School's out of school. Fence guys, et cetera, are coming, you know, down the road next time Murphy's out.
Can I interject just a question? Just thinking through this. Is there anything that we can do, this is a common thread, but is there any notation we could make on the plat? The concern is the structure, the garage structure of the neighbor who is ultimately selling this property to someone else. Is there anything that we can do in terms of notating that at the time this structure was ever demoed, repaired, removed, it would then have to adhere to the zoning ordinance or setback? Since that's the major issue, under the ordinance, it does not have to move, but at the time of reconstruction or redevelopment, that it then would have to meet that 8-foot setback, then that removes that condition.
Under the ordinance, it doesn't have to move because it complies today. You're putting in a property line that's creating a violation.
You're changing the burden from you to him, and that wouldn't be fair.
Can I ask something? Maybe I'm incorrect on this, but my home is currently in violation. So by extending my property line out 25 feet, my home is no longer in violation. So there's not an additional violation.
It's just a trade-off.
It's what?
A trade-off violation.
There you go. Call it a trade-off violation. There's no addition. I mean, I'm in violation right now. I mean, my home is, if you're standing on my home, there's 3 feet. So call it a trade-off violation. It's a new replacing an old. I mean, apparently I've been in violation, I guess, since 1952. I don't know. But
It's
Thank you.
possible that the house was constructed prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance.
That's right.
Go back to the same question that she asked a while ago. Would your preference be for the holdover or to adopt the, approve it with these conditions? Because I think that's our two options for today.
And the approval is basically 20 feet instead of 25. It's approved today and I can move forward?
Yes.
How long does it take you to reserve it? I mean, are we going to be in the same boat as far as timeline?
No, we'll be
You don't
okay.
have to be there.
If we explore this, obviously, he's got to negotiate his contract. We can get all the maps submitted back to the planning department, or really just, if we can just approve it based on that condition that we meet the 8-foot setback, whatever that may be, not have to come back before you guys. I think that makes the most sense to get it done in a timely manner. I think an approval today is the fastest way based on what I see.
And
Thank you,
with
Mr.
that,
Rowe.
with an
Thank you,
approval
Mr. Gray.
today, I still have a clear deed closing a week from tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
We can go ahead and record it. We can go ahead and record it. I did, yes, the rest of the conditions seem within reason or standard, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
Mr. Green. Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Number 9, south side of Cottage Hill Road, zoning request to vacate a right-of-way. Applicant present and in agreement. Is there any opposition? Thank you. We'll move on to number 10. Number 10 is 2521 Halls Mill Road, a planned unit development. Yes, sir.
My name is Paul Lewis with Roy Lewis Construction. We recently built a new building at this address that was the result of a fire damage of the maintenance building, which is the new structure. During the process of the project, the original PUD that was recorded had a proposed dumpster location behind the existing building that's labeled on the drawing. And there were a few problems with that. One was feasibility and one was function related. In this part of town, the sewer lateral in the road that the building's tied into is 4 feet deep, and with the requirement of the drain for the dumpster addition, we couldn't get there with the slope of the gravity fall. We couldn't get there by doing a line to the sewer or to the existing tie-in that they already had. And so the owner asked us to move the dumpster location, and we did. And it's in a location that caused us some problems when we went to have the final inspection done and get the permanent CO on the property. The couple of items with the location of where it is now. If you look on the drawing, you may not be able to see, but the handout you have has an existing overhead door on the existing building. That is their first bay for that's their maintenance building. They pretty much do oil changes and motor. They work on the headlights and things in those buildings. That is their first bay where they use that bay a lot. And in order for us to have a dumpster that's out of this building setback, the new building setback, it's going to encroach that first bay right there. And so it's going to be a risky proposition to use that bay with their buses that they service in all of those bays. In the rear, where the initial layout was, early in the mornings when the dumpster companies usually come to service the dumpsters, a lot of mornings they run out of this location over 30 buses, and they house them there, and then sometimes they'll go out 10 at a time when they have a large booking. Well, sometimes when they leave, it'll be between 1 in the morning and 5 in the morning. It's not uncommon for that to happen. So they get lined up in series and ready to go, so that once they're once everybody's in and they're ready to move out, they'll be in a long line there. And so that there's a potential conflict there with the location, with the service timing, if you will. So what we're asking to do today, and by the way, we took this to the Board of Adjustments, and they agreed that there were some hardships that we incurred with the initial placement on the original PUD. They agreed with that, but they said it was more of a planning commission item to be addressed rather than something that they were going to make a ruling on that day. So we're back here to ask that this PUD be able to be recorded with the dumpster location as is. The dumpster is a drained concrete base with a 6-foot privacy fence and gate surrounding the dumpster. So it is built to the city standard of construction.
That means you have 1 minute. You have 1 minute.
Okay, all right. I think that pretty much concludes what I'm not used to speaking at planning commission, so this is new to me.
Well, let me also add that the site plan that was submitted with the application by the engineering company was not the correct site plan. The one I handed out to you at the beginning of the meeting that says number 10 in blue on it, that is in fact the as-built condition of the dumpster, showing that it is set back approximately 7 feet from the Halls Mill Road right-of-way line. The engineering company that prepared these drawings is no longer in business as of the beginning of this week, so getting a revision out of them would have been difficult. So that's a copy of the site plan that was part of the variance application.
At the Board of Adjustment, I remember there was some discussion about the height of the privacy fence along Halls Mill Road.
It's not a privacy fence, it's a chain link
Okay.
fence up at the road.
Okay.
It's 8 foot. The chain link fence is 8 foot, plus a foot of 3 runs of barbed wire, so it's actually 9 foot.
Question for staff. So basically what we're looking at, the problem that we have with it is the dumpster is just pushed back too far towards the right-of-way.
Yes, sir. It is, as Bert said, 7 feet from the property line. The zoning ordinance specifically says that dumpsters are not supposed to be located in the front setback.
So you all recommended for holdover till we got what we have now. So what are you recommending now that we have this?
Well, we didn't have any conditions prepared, but I would state that probably you're just looking at full compliance with all municipal codes and ordinances as a standard condition. They have a temporary certificate of occupancy right now, and this one issue is keeping them from having approval from planning and zoning to sign off on a final certificate of occupancy.
But this is a further illustration of what happens when someone comes to the commission, obtains planned unit development approval with maybe not doing the proper due diligence, locating the sewer line, and then makes field changes. It creates an issue both for them not being able to get a certificate of occupancy and for the city having to say, no, it doesn't comply. We can't sign off on something that is a violation without going through the process. I know it's frustrating for the applicant, but it's also frustrating for the staff when we know that it's already been before you once and you did not have an accurate, appropriate plan to review.
Does the staff have a recommendation of where you think it could go on the site, or you just go blank on that?
No, we have not, we don't necessarily have the staff to design where.
No, but I meant like pull back 50 feet, but the applicant is claiming that there's a hardship and that was the only location, because they went to Board of Adjustment, if I'm reading between the lines.
They did go to the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment reviewed it. It was pointed out that it was a PUD and that it was shown in the proper location on the PUD. And the board agreed that there was a problem, but did not think it should be a variance, and technically, they can't grant a variance to an approved PUD.
When they submitted the PUD, I wasn't on the planning commission at the time, where did they locate the dumpster at the time?
As is shown on the plan that you have in your,
So that it's
book.
pushed back, but it's in the similar site?
It's in a similar site, but it met the 25-foot setback.
Got it.
If you see the fuel tank
Oh, it's
on the
fine.
existing plan, it was right to the north east.
Okay.
I mean, to where the pointer would go, if straight up is north. It was right next to the fuel tanks.
Okay, so where it's shown on the plan that was submitted was still not accurate based on where it was built.
Correct. This is the as-built plan. And I'm not in any way contesting what you're saying. We're not designers, and we had too much of a spirit of accommodation, I guess you could say, with the owner. And it didn't occur to me at the time with the chain link fence where it was, and it was approved to be there. It wasn't, the red flag in my mind didn't go up that we're in violation of a building setback here, and that's what occurred.
You didn't have the original plans where it was in?
We did. I mean, we had the original plan.
So you knew it was changed, though?
Yes,
I mean-
we did not submit it
Right.
for the new location until it was built.
Yeah.
Does the building to the south, that's called the south property line, is there plumbing in that building?
There was functional plumbing at one time, but it's no longer functional. The only functioning restroom they have on the site is in the new building.
Thank you, Mr.
And the existing sewer is 4 foot, the lateral. So that was part of the problem.
If this was not approved, where would you consider relocating the dumpster?
I don't think you can locate it far from where it is right now. You could possibly shift it back from the road, maybe another 18 feet. But what happens when that occurs, what happens when that occurs is you start getting into this overhead door right here.
What about back in there? Is that too far from the sewer?
Shifting it.
Basically, just to where it's on the,
You're still in the setback.
No, setback's right here.
Okay.
yeah,
Move it right here. So
well,
we're,
Doug, it might be easier on the one he's got in his hand, because this is the setback line.
yeah, like right here. It's far enough away from that door, and you put it right there up against the setback line. I'm just trying to come up with some solutions.
Is that enough of a change to warrant moving it, though?
Well, it moves it outside of the setback. It comes in compliance. What I'm suggesting is where it's shown on that, just move it directly southwest, I guess, along the setback, yeah, right in there. I mean, outside the setback, we would be compliant with the setback.
Because those buses are
no.
like 40, you're still in line with this door, is what I'm saying. You gotta pull those buses straight back. You're still in the bay of that door. You're just removed a little bit further back. So those buses still have to swing wide to get into that lane.
You might be arrogant.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Anybody have any further questions? Mr. Olson, do you have anything additional to add? Thank you. Is there any opposition to this? Okay, we'll move on to number 11, which is a rezoning application for 5803 Old Shell Road.
Good afternoon.
Good
Joe Azarisi with Azarisi and Associates. I'm here on behalf of the owner for this rezoning application. It is recommended for denial, and there are 3 items listed. We did not provide any justification for the rezoning. Apparently, that was an oversight on our part. The owner of this lot owns the 2 adjacent lots to the west where apartments are located. Most of the most of the business or the development in this area is zoned B2 along Old Shell, just across the street from University of South Alabama. And the owner would like to put in retail shops on this particular piece of property. The dumpster was erroneously shown within a building setback. This is not the final site plan. This was something that is required by the city, a preliminary site plan to be turned in with the rezoning application. There are several modifications we need to make to it. The third item that was on there was that the tree and landscaping requirements, and we realize that we need to make some adjustments there. But we have always, any site plan we've turned in has always been in full compliance with city ordinances and requirements. If not, we make the changes, and we've ultimately gotten everything through, never had anything denied. This is the first time I've been before the board on a denial, and I think it's some items that can be worked out, and we're willing to work with the city to get those done.
Okay. Are you requesting a holdover to work those items out?
I would like to see it be accepted today. I mean, we had 3 minor items, in my opinion, based on a preliminary layout. Landscaping is a very minor thing that can be added. The dumpster location can be shifted easily. And like I said, if you look at the zoning map, B2 is all across Old Shell Road, so this wouldn't be spot zoning by no means. So I would like to request that the Planning Commission go ahead and approve this recommendation for rezoning.
Question for staff. Is there a reason you recommended denial as opposed to holdover?
Well, there was no justification, for one thing. And without justification,
You have no means?
we have nothing really to hang our hat on. And there were the issues with the site plan. We understand zoning in and of itself is not site plan specific. But that, in conjunction with no justification, was the recommendation for denial. We do have conditions for approval should the commission be of that mindset. And I believe Mr. Azarisi's already seen them.
I have, yes.
And
I'm in full agreement with him. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Esposito. Is there any opposition to this? Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, I don't have a question, but part of the land is zoned R1 and backs up to R1.
Yes, that's correct. This is a vacant lot. The 2 lots adjacent to it are zoned R2, and my client owns those apartments.
But they don't go as far back right now. They're not developed as far back
No, and
as
my understanding
this
is...
going. And this is going to be strictly off of Long Street because
Yes,
it
we
shows no
would
curb
not
cut.
have access off Old Shell Road.
And what's the square footage that you're putting in total? Because I guess I need that translated than looking at blocks.
The square footage of building area, I don't have that in front of me right now,
I
but,
think that's important.
you know, we will adjust whatever we need to be in full compliance with city requirements.
I have a question for staff. The idea of justification, that's not simply kind of what you intend to put there, right? It kind of goes beyond that, kind of based on, you know, the actual reasons for the proving of the need for rezoning. Is that correct?
Well, there, in the zoning ordinance, there are 4 specific reasons listed that the site is supposed to meet, at least one.
Gotcha.
For a rezoning. And we had nothing, you know, arguably, I can see where one of the ones would be changing conditions, given the approvals that have just occurred directly across Long Street and the apartments a little bit further south on Long Street. But, you know, it's up to the commission whether or not y'all choose to approve it today. Touching on Ms. Rich's comment about part of the site being R1, that northern part, the best we can figure based on the maps and the information that we have, this was possibly a pre-1967
I guarantee.
rezoning, and Back in the day, they did reservation for service road as opposed to dedication.
I see.
That would be the width of a service road, and with the reservation, it would not have been zoned or rezoned.
But I know what's directly south is R1 still. Yeah, I mean, there's people living there.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy.
Just one
I'm
quick
sorry.
question for the applicant. So you'd be open for a holdover to provide staff with information, or are you gonna bank on an approval today? This recommended for denial.
Yeah, we would prefer an approval today. I mean, a holdover is better than a denial, but of course, we'd like approval today so that we could move forward. We still have to go through the city council.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. On to number 13, 3250 Dolphin Street.
12.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, skipping right over it.
Number 12, come on down.
She's trying to hurry up and get us out of here.
Mr. Cameron is recused on number 12. This is 5955 Airport Boulevard, 754 Linland Avenue, and 755 Pinemont Drive.
David Schumer, Barton Schumer Engineering. This project, a site is currently under contract for sale, and the purchaser and owner request a holdover to allow them further due diligence period before they follow through with the recommendation for rezoning.
Okay. Hold over to the December 1st meeting?
Yes, 12.
Yes?
12.
Okay.
And the reason is for the sale of the property?
It's under contract right now, and there's contention on the recommendation for rezoning with the current owner and with the purchaser on how that works out with the way they've written out their contract and the verbiage on the sale of the property.
How does that affect
And
what we do?
The current owner doesn't want any record or recommendation for the rezoning to be one in case the sale doesn't go through. Or
You do that?
I've tried to explain how that the city council makes the change, but they would rather hold this over and wait for the December meeting.
Is it
Once
because
the
the staff
Well, they have other
recommended
due diligence
the B1?
that they're working on, and there's contractual verbiage, and I'm not the real estate person, having
I've
to do
never heard
with
this
the
request,
city's.
I'll be honest. I mean, as far as,
Well,
you
and
know,
so they're
because
just.
an application was made and the staff went through their diligence to render their
I got the call last
opinion.
night.
Yeah.
Yesterday afternoon, that they wanted, and it's a contention between the purchaser and the seller.
What's going to change?
To ask for any changes. It's just something with the contract and how it's written on the purchase agreement, that they're going through a due diligence period, and they're hoping to expedite the process for B1, then according to his interpretation of the contract or something thereof, and I'm not familiar with the contract at all, and this is coming from about 5 steps away from the owner to me.
I'm not shooting the messenger.
So, and they just said that, they're just, the purchaser's nervous that the owner's going to say something, and the owner's nervous that, something's going to be done, and then the lot's not going to sell, and I'm not a real estate agent, and I don't want to get into.
I know they made the application, the owner is not recommended to go to the B2, but the pending use is a medical clinic, which that's wide open, people don't know exactly, but that would be a B1 use.
Correct.
So everything kind of fits, so
It has to deal with, it has nothing to do with the recommendation, it's part of the recommendation, but it's because it's in limbo under contract and they're in a due diligence period. And we were hoping to expedite once the due diligence and the property closed, we were hoping to have all of this situated to where they could move forward. But since they haven't figured, and I don't know if there's other issues that they're looking into as part of the due diligence, whether it has something to do with the
I
building.
would assume, yes, that the owner wants some language in the contract to protect himself from the property being downzoned, that if it is, assuming, and we both know.
he has,
Because they're probably, I have no idea because I'm not involved in this. I'm just assuming based on what he's saying that all they going to need to do is amend the contract to put some language in there to protect the seller in case it gets down zoned, that he doesn't have the obligation to sell it.
But is that the job of the planning commission to get involved in
It's not the job of
economics?
the planning commission, and we're not doing that. We're just, they're just asking us to hold it over for 2 weeks or a month. Or
Potentially finish the rest of the due diligence and then move forward with it.
You know, Ms. Rich, and correct me if I'm mistaken, the applicant is, or the proposed purchaser is fine with the B1. The seller wants to protect his B2 interest, so he simply wants something, as Mr. Anderson was saying, in the contract that will.
if the property doesn't sell, and he's not.
He doesn't want the change, right.
He's why just has to amend the contract.
So we're just looking for the application. We wanted, everything was good until last night. They just want just another month to do some more due diligence.
Thank you, Mr. Trimmer. It has been requested to be held over. Is there any opposition here that would like to speak to this issue today?
Ms. Rich, have they met with you or the neighbors? Do we need to tell him to come meet with y'all or suggest that he meet with you and your?
I tried that, but I offered a
Okay.
meeting and nothing transpired. But there are people down here to speak, I know for a fact.
Yes, ma'am. Please come forward and state your name.
Thank you. I'm Kathy O'Keefe, and I am part of the Homeowners Association Board for Regency, the neighborhood that is just east of this. I was also involved in this application process as an opponent years ago when it was brought forward. Everybody made it crystal clear on the Planning Commission and the staff that this was a poor use of the footprint. It was inconsistent. It would make it difficult to resell. We went on and on. It made me recall what someone on the radio asked him, do you have any regrets about the city of Mobile and the way we've developed it? He said, my biggest regret is the influence that we've allowed certain people to have that changes our zoning or our principles, when really it should always be what's best for the whole community. And it was in that spirit that I opposed it, and lots of other people opposed it at the beginning. We knew this was going to be a white elephant, and Mr. Marks assured the city council they were never moving from the property again. They would never have to worry about the consequences of spot zoning and the variance on the parking lot, because it was not going to be a problem. And you can never plan or give an approval for a plan based on what somebody tells you, but what legally they have the right to do. It doesn't surprise me at all that he's pulling it back, because I absolutely am sure his best interest is the number one thing here. I'm here because I'm concerned about the best interest of the people who live in Pinehurst, the people who live in Regency, and other people who expect that when zoning is created, and this is what the map of Mobile is supposed to be all about, we get zoning, it's consistent, it's stable, and it's in the best interest of the citizens. And so what we've got here is an opportunity to go back to B1, which is where it should have been all the time. You're going to have to ask the people in Pinehurst to take the hit, which is what really bothered me when the original thing, take the hit on the parking lot with the two houses that are behind it, which one of the residents is here to tell you has been so poorly maintained, so trashed, that I can't believe he wants us to fix it. To have to pants on, and don't let Mr. Marks.
And I live at 7 of the night with a bar or something going in there if this falls through and we don't have a clinic. A clinic is a quiet thing, but I can just envision that a B2 could allow any kind of possibilities. And that's scary to think, you know, that what could be in there. As far as the parking lot, I'm okay with the parking lot. I'd love the parking lot. I'd love a good fence around it. I would love it. My son too. But we have no opposition to that at all, to getting rid of the two homes. But I do respectfully request that this be B1 so that we do not, my son does not lose every dime he's invested into his home. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Honadell.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Lee. I reside at 300 Trent Mill Court, which is Ridgefield subdivision. I'm here as the president of the Ridgefield Property Owners Association. And representing the subdivision, we're here to let the commission know that we're in favor of the B1 zoning that has been recommended. Like our good neighbor from Regency, we were involved way back many years ago. Everybody knows this is still commonly referred to as the Lazy Boy store. I guess it's fair to update it and say the former Lazy Boy store. I think she spoke eloquently about the issues. I'm not going to try and go over anything, so we're here to support B1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir, Mr. Schubaugh.
I just want to say that I was prepared before last night to come up here and accept the planner's recommendation as stated on the application until I was told that there was some potential contractual issues with the property sale.
Yes, sir.
And they would rather just postpone going through the process until after the rest of the remainder of the due diligence was completed, so that there was not any gray area as part of the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Schumer. Are there any further questions?
Yeah, I want to ask a question. So the neighbors are suggesting that we approve it as recommended today, but the chances are the buyer wants the project, the space, as a B1 use. However, the seller is saying if it's approved today as a B1 and the contract falls through, he'll be stuck with a vacant building that he may not be able to sell or put to use, and you may end up with a B1 zoning that you want, but it may be a vacant, unused property moving forward for a long time. So that's why I think the suggestion for a holdover is a decent suggestion.
If I could answer that. The applicant could have withdrawn if there's a economic or personal reason. That would have been, we often get that down here a lot, that they just don't want any action on it. They'll withdraw their application. Now, the holdover is requested due to some economics, but the thing is, you're looking at a large building that was zoned, at least for people nearby, very inappropriately, but it was, with not adequate parking, thank goodness, because this is the opportunity to then keep it in the classification of the abutting, both east and west parcels, and to stabilize what are two homes in terrible condition under the same ownership, so that we could get tree buffer like we do for everyone who abuts residential to a commercial. And the B1 is the best blend that a resident can ask for, because the idea is that it's a 9 to 5. I had asked, I reached out to Mr. Schumer, who is present, who is the applicant's individual given the rights to address us, and so I felt to call and ask for some kind of meeting. When there's meetings ahead of time, a lot is discussed, a lot is understood, and I asked them to please get that message into the owner, because I could quickly bring residents and people together, not a large meeting, something very quaint, so to speak, and non-controversial. And this was even before the staff had recommended their opinion. But again, when I got the staff report and sent it to people who were interested in the application, they were, their attitude was, thank goodness. And so this is before us now, and I would hope, no matter what was going on with the applicant's economics, that we would never be looking at a heavy commercial use encroaching largely into a very established and older neighborhood. The B1s, when they get the leasing signs out front, people don't worry about it. They know it'll be a 9 to 5 business going in. When we saw the for sale sign and the open nature of that B2, we all hold our breath because of the destabilization that that represents. And so the opportunity is indeed for this commission to correct what was a wrong back many years ago. So I would hope that you would go with the staff's recommendation. I'll have one vote on this, so.
recommendation was for B2.
B1 is for B1.
Can I make one more
Thank
thing?
you, excuse me. Ms. Rich, thank you very much.
If the staff follows through the recommendation and makes the recommendation for the rezoning, this whole deal may fall through, and the location will stay B2 until an application is made to the city council, which will not be done by Mr. Marks if the current purchaser walks away.
Thank you, Mr. Schumer. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to number 13. 3250 Dolphin Street, Dolphin Gate subdivision. Is the applicant present? You okay with the recommendations? Is there any opposition to this? Number 14. There is no number 14. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you very much. We will now move into the deliberation phase.
Did you want one?
No, thank you, Ms. Rich. Let's move into the deliberation phase. The first one is 1924, 1965, 2000, and 2222 Dolphin Island Parkway. The request is recommended for approval, has been recommended for approval.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 2, 4476 Shipyard Road.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 3, 800 Baltimore Street.
Before I make a recommendation, just clarification from staff. Staff was okay with the 20-foot setback because of the existing structure?
Yes, sir, because this site still has the existing non-conforming status, the 20-foot setback is fine.
Okay. Move to approve based on staff recommendation, changing item 1 to a 20-foot minimum building setback.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 4, 3614 Old Shell Road.
Do we question?
I'm sorry, this application's been requested for a...
Hold on.
I know it has.
No, Mr. Byrd requests that we vote on it, I believe, right?
He did. Have all of y'all seen the recommendations, the conditions from the
We just
city?
getting them in our hands.
Mr. Hawkins is handing those out now.
Hot off the press.
I'll make a movement to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 5, 1500 Satchel Page Drive.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 6, North Terminus of Georgian Drive.
I'm gonna make a movement to hold over due to all the concerns in the neighbors, give them an opportunity to meet with the developer.
So is that a move to hold over?
It's a move to hold over,
Yes.
sorry.
For how long?
December 1st.
December 1st meeting?
Who gets the word to the nearby people that that's going on? That's
here.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor of a
Aye.
holdover to December 1st? All opposed? Thank you very much. Number 7, south terminus of Heritage Circle West, Sean Turner Estate subdivision.
Question, before we make the motion, please. Staff's opinion again on the turnaround. Was there a clarification on whether or not we were going to remove item 1 or just change the wording?
I think changing the wording would be sufficient if it's changed to say provision of a permanent turnaround easement at the terminus of Heritage Circle West with the size, location, and design to comply with the 2012 International Fire Code requirements, which is in essence what Mr. Byrd offered at the podium.
Should we make it a right-of-way dedication, not an easement?
Yeah, as Mr. Byrd said, the Mobile County may not accept the easement, the dedication, since the road is not constructed to current standards.
Also clarification, Mr. May said being in the county, county goes by 2009 fire code, is that correct?
That's true, but they've also put a provision in where it's kind of cool the way they did it. They adopted the 2009, but they allowed themselves to pick and choose from any current IFC code. So if they like a newer version, they can use it as opposed to 2009. But as far as road access and all that those things haven't changed since 2003.
So to be accurate, we did change that to 2009.
You could, yes.
Okay.
I have a question for the staff, I think. Just providing the...
Hold on 1 second. We're meeting with the engineer right now. Hold on 1 second, please.
This is on the same application.
Because he wasn't at that time.
Ms. Andrews.
So providing the right-of-way, I guess, or easement, whichever it is, in lieu of actually having the permanent turnaround, does that essentially mean that it's just going to kind of remain as it is? When will the permanent turnaround be constructed?
When there is any type of future subdivision of the property that is not an extension of the road, a true extension of the road, if they were to come in and subdivide Lot B off of that turnaround and make standard cul-de-sac type lots, at that time, the construction of the turnaround to county standards would be required.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
the dedication of the right-of-way as opposed to an easement.
Gotcha, thanks.
And Mr. Byrd did point out one other thing, condition number 6, retention of the 25-foot building setback line. It does need to change to say the 25-foot minimum building setback line for each lot on the final plat be adjusted for the permanent turnaround easement.
Yeah, permanent turnaround, yeah.
That's number 6, you're changing, instead of for Lot B, you mean?
Yes, ma'am. Because
Thank you.
there's only one turnaround easement.
I move to approve it, changing item 1 to adding the word easement, permanent turnaround easement, and then changing item 6, adding the word easement for the permanent turnaround easement, and based on staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 8, 124 and 128 South Street. Ms. Sessions was recused.
Move to approve, subject to staff's revised comments,
Which were?
which adjusted the property line.
To ensure the 8-foot setback.
And
Second.
That's right, the applicant said he was okay with that. Okay.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 9, south side of Cottage Hill Road, Richard Ball and Iona Ball.
Move to approve vacating the county right-of-way per staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 10, 2521 Halls Mill Road.
Question for staff, just to recap what we're looking for here. The applicant, would they get with city staff and try to come up with a resolution for a new dumpster location and then bring that back to us? Or just trying to understand what the options are here. Obviously making them move it, denying it.
Okay, assuming that you're going to require them to bring it into compliance, they would need to, or I would recommend that they meet with staff. We give them an area in which it could be located, comply with the regulations, and then have them figure out, based on how the sewer line would tie in, the sanitary sewer line would tie in, have a revised plan at least a week to 2 weeks prior to the meeting at which it would be heard, submitted so we could have a revised staff report recommendation for you in your packet. Or you could just say, we approve it as constructed, or just deny it and tell them to figure it out. But we would be more than happy to meet with them and help them determine a location that would work.
That'd take a 1 month holdover.
Yeah, that would take, and that would definitely take a 1 month holdover.
Till
To
December 1st.
December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
No.
December 1st.
Mhm, that's correct.
I was thinking we're already planning.
Sorry?
Move to hold over to December 1st.
Second.
Second, did it, unless it was.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 11, 5803 Old Shell Road.
Before we make a motion again, the recommendations from staff was based on the 3 items, the justification for rezoning, and then 2 and 3 about the dumpster and the landscaping are, I think those are items that could be worked out. Is that staff's opinion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As far as justification for rezoning, I mean, the area is already, zoned, the adjacent property is zoned B2, if I'm not mistaken.
Across Long Street to the east, yes.
Yes. And the owner of this property also owns the property to the west, correct?
Correct, the 2 apartment buildings.
What would be an appropriate holdover that would allow the staff to really fully consider the proposed justification for this application?
Next meeting or December 1? I would say since we have kind of quick conditions for this, hold over until the next meeting would be sufficient, so that'd be November 17.
I have a question about, I know that the trees are not necessarily preserved out this way, but when you look at that site and that landscaping plan that they did come forward with, could there be any notation for trees over a certain, diameter so that they could somehow be saved? I mean, we're getting a lot of scraping done, and some of it was already scraped.
The zoning ordinance currently requires, or would require them to obtain a permit for any live oak, 24 inches or larger. If you want to preserve a tree, there is preservation status, but that's usually only granted to trees that are in the 48-inch or larger.
Yeah, well, I don't know, I can't say that I've walked it, so I don't know what's out there, but.
Are there any heritage oaks on the property that we're aware of?
Did anyone, yeah, I don't know. It's a good chance there's something worth salvaging than just as, little crepe myrtles coming
Based
back.
on the tree survey that was submitted with the application, There is a 68-inch live oak that will be preserved. Oh, you turned it off, okay. It's located in this area, so it's in that front landscaped area, so it would be preserved. There is a 42-inch oak that is located approximately right here, and that is obviously proposed to be removed because it's within the footprint, or it is within the footprint of the building.
But that's R2 that it abuts.
Yes, ma'am, that's R2 that it abuts. They are providing the minimum 10-foot
10-foot.
buffer strip between the two. There is a red oak, I think it's in this area right here, that can be removed.
To be removed?
Mhm. And those are pretty much the significant trees. The rest are water oaks and pines. And if a water oak's your only tree, it's a good tree, but if there are other trees, it's not such a great tree.
But if they're clearing out all the other stuff out. Well, I know there's a change of character, there's no doubt there. It would be nice to keep that all in the residential classification because of it still abutting the R1. And this one is, it's going way far back, but I guess 2 weeks for them to come in with a more, all you see is just block after block, no idea of the square footage and, So when you figure the parking, and these are gonna be lots of hour type of, it can be anything.
Sorry, actually, the square footage of the building is in the report. It was 12,160 square feet, and that was 41 parking spaces.
And that's the absolute minimum. And that 41 number is the absolute minimum required for retail, which means there could not be a food or beverage establishment in this development.
So staff report addresses the tree question. Staff report addresses the parking questions. Those issues have already been resolved, correct?
But the justification for the staff to hold it over. Well, I'll make a recommendation to hold it over for 2 weeks. If
Second.
anyone wants to second and get a vote on that.
All in favor of a holdover until November 17th?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Didn't carry.
Okay.
I didn't listen, don't look at me.
The motion was made for a holdover, and it
Didn't go, I don't think.
did not pass.
For holdover did, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Want to revote? I
Oh,
voted.
you didn't vote?
She didn't vote.
All in favor of a holdover till November 17th?
Raise your hand.
All in favor?
All in favor of a holdover till November 17th?
1, 2, 3, 4.
All opposed to a holdover till November 17th?
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'll vote in favor of the holdover till November 17th.
Okay.
Okay, 5955 Airport Boulevard, 754 Lincoln Avenue, and 755 Palmont Drive. The applicant has requested a holdover until December 1st.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Quick question, please. Proposed zoning on the application shows B2.
B1.
Shows B2.
The application was B2.
The applicant, yes.
Okay. Number 13, 3250 Dolphin Street.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
Is there?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's for the PUD and the sub, correct?
Both, okay.
That's right, so together.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And there is no number 14. Thank you very much.
Ms. Lake, just,
Yes.
you did
Is there
very
any
well.
further business? No? Then the meeting is adjourned.
And just a reminder, I think you have at your place flyers for the open house on the week of November 14 through 17. Please attend, one or all, and
Spread the word.
Yes, I was going to say,
Send it
also,
to everyone
everybody
you
you
know.
know, please give it to them.